Hello guys, welcome to season 2, episode 6. This is based off the dance one, and it's gonna get a little bit intense in here, so prepare for whatever you're doing. I hope that you enjoy this. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like it if you're watching the video, put on your post notifications for either the Spotify or YouTube. Remember, I post every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And without further ado, let's get into this. So the first scene that we have is not just Joey. And it is not just Pacey, you guys. I have great news. Fabulous news. Since season 1, episode 13, we have not seen this. It is a scene of Pacey and Joey. Can I get a round of applause? Can't applaud because my whole device would shake. So this scene is in Dawson's room, obviously, and Andy is dancing and watching Footloose on Dawson's TV, while Pacey, Dawson, and Joey are sitting on the bed and watching her dance while laughing. Of course, this is a typical scene. It was like Dawson and Joey together, and then Andy and Pacey together, and anyway. So, Andy's like, oh my god, I love Footloose. Don't you guys love to dance? I am so excited about the homecoming dance next weekend. And Pacey's like, the homecoming dance? And Andy nods, and Pacey's like, oh my god, we're hanging out with Maris Brandy. And Andy's like, I don't understand, what's wrong with the school dance? And Dawson goes, I think what Pacey's actually saying is that we're not actually the school dance type, which I don't know how anyone could be the school dance type, especially in this day and age. Like, they just play rap music and cuss music, and it drives me insane. Like, I'm not even going to prom this year, and it's my senior year. And Joey says, we'd rather watch a movie about a high school dance than actually set foot in an over-decorated gym. And Pacey's like, actually, this entwined of high school conversation is not limited to dances. It covers the whole spectrum of school concerts events. And he's like, case in point, and this is where he directs into Joey, like we're finally having to notice each other. And he goes, Joey, how many high school football games have you gone to? And Joey says, none. And Pacey goes, And Dawson, how many pep rally games have you loyally attended to? And Dawson says, 0. And Dawson's like, And Pacey's like, And he's like, you guys are a bunch of cynicals, you know that? I mean, what memories are you guys doing with all the high school is bitch and moan about it? And Joey goes, bitch memories, and Dawson goes, moaning memories, and Joey looks over at Dawson and smiles. And Andy's like, you guys are completely sabotaging your high school experience. There is no high school experience, you guys. Like, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are done with high school. Because your girl's about to be. But, there is no high school experience. Like, they make it sound so good in the movies and TV shows, and I'm like, all I get to do is just stress about my grade and worry about what college and state I'm going to, whether I have a driver's license or not, or whether I wreck a car, or get gas, or get a job, like, or what my whole life will be. And they're over here like, oh, this is your high school experience, dances, and I'm like, no, no. And Pacey goes, guilty as charged. Now, Dawson, if you don't mind, could you turn the movie back on? Because I really want to see who's responsible for Kevin Bacon's roughly devilish hairdo. And he smiles at Andy as the tape goes back, and Andy walks over and stands in front of the TV, which all their faces with this was kind of funny. And Andy goes, you mean to tell me you'd rather watch a movie about something than doing it yourself? And Dawson and Joey say correct. And Andy walks over and sits on the window seat, and he says, okay, what about sex? And their faces to this, Dawson, Pacey, and Joey just stare at each other like, oh crap, what are we talking about? And Andy's like, I mean, you guys are missing a major opportunity here. Why do you think the blah 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 were so intolerant about outlawing the dance? They believe to be sinful. And Dawson's like, are you saying dancing equals sex? And Andy goes, no, but dancing could possibly be great foreplay. And Joey looks at Dawson, and Pacey's like, I love the way you think. I love whenever Pacey says something like that. And Andy's like, so, who's coming with me on Saturday? And Joey looks at Dawson again and scratches her head, and Pacey makes a face like, whoa, this woman is my new smack dance. If I go dance with her, maybe she'll have sex with me afterwards. I'm sorry, I have to make that joke, but this teenage guy, look, that's just what I picture. And that was our last scene that we will see of ever them talking to each other for the rest of the day and age. I'm kidding, there's actually another one. I think it's like the next episode or so, where they all get to the pool one, and then we'll see them talk to each other again. The next scene that we have is scene 2 of Joey, and it cuts to Bessie and Joey pulling up to Cape's side, and Joey's about to get out but stops, and Bessie's like, okay, we're here, you're gonna get out? And Joey's like, I was thinking. And Bessie starts rolling her eyes, and Bessie's like, what is it this morning? General teen anxious or something specific? And Joey's like, if I tell you something, will you respond with nothing but sisterly advice or concern? And Bessie's like, of course. We love Bessie with her sisterly advice. And Joey's like, okay, Jack kissed me. And Bessie just starts laughing. Like, just pearl laughing, which, I mean, we can't blame her. Because, like, Jack was just so quiet during all of this. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, he actually kissed you? And Joey's like, look, I don't think cackling qualifies as concern or advice. And Bessie was like, I'm sorry, Joey, but Jack chore bore down at the Heist house? And Joey's like, yes. And Bessie's like, he kissed you? And Joey said, it was nothing really, it just happened and it was over. And Bessie said, so what's the problem then? And Joey's like, Dawson? And Bessie's like, oh, you didn't tell him, did you? And Joey's like, no, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, this classic example is what I would tell Dawson. But since the friend has been Dawson the boyfriend, the confused of it. No newsworthy events has become a little blurry. And Bessie's like, okay, here's the way I see it. Jack kissed you, right? And it was a one-way kiss. And Joey's like, yeah. And which I kind of disagree with this, but I also agree with this. Like, why make something a big deal when it isn't? But also at the same thing, like, if it wasn't a big deal, why not tell him? Like, never had this thing happen to me, which will probably never happen to me. But I mean, like, wouldn't you just be straight up honest with the person? Like, hey, he kissed me and I have no feelings for him, I'm all into you. But here's the thing. The reason why Joey didn't say anything was because Joey and Dawson were already having problems. Like, why start something when something wasn't a big deal? And we all know that Dawson would make it a big deal. And Bessie's like, surprise whenever, completely uninvited, all in one, no big deal. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't beat yourself over it. If you want my advice, just put it behind you, concentrate on Dawson, pretend it never happened. And Joey's like, what didn't happen? And Bessie's like, exactly. And Joey's like, thanks, Bessie. And Bessie goes, okay, and then drives off. But I generally think that Joey was scared to tell Dawson because she was afraid of, like, the anger that would come up with it. Because we all know that Dawson has a big temper, and the moment that he would hear about this, he would just snap. And that's exactly what he does. But it's just like one of those things, she would tell him if it was a big deal. But also at the same time, I feel like that's just a Joey thing. She never really starts something unless it needs to be started. And even when, like, Drew kissed her in season 4, like, remember Drew, if you watched the show? But she was together with Pacey, but she never said anything. And I feel like that's where her lesson came from here versus season 4. Like, there's a lot of things going on, obviously. But I feel like if it was meant to be said, it would be said. But also, like, at the same time, you should just tell them. So the next scene that we have is scene 3 of Joey. And we all know Christy from season 2, episode 1, and her boyfriend, their 4-week anniversary or whatever. And her boyfriend's like don't pull away from me like I'm some stupid dog on a leash. And Christy's like, well, how about acknowledging me when you see me outside, huh? And Dawson walks by while listening to them and heads towards Joey's locker. And Dawson says, promise me we'll never air out a relationship crisis about anything like that. I can't think of anything more embarrassing and mature. And Joey says, deal. And they say, okay, and then they kiss. But they all know that they're going to do it several times. And Dawson says, now remind me again how Andy and McPhee convinced us to the homecoming dance. And Joey's like, I think it by promising that the dancing will end up in a month of an act. And Dawson goes, oh, could that possibly mention our first sex since we've been together? And Joey's like, possibly. And Dawson's like, why is that? When we were friends, we talked about sex all the time. And Joey's like, I think that's when we were easing up to the conversation between friends to lover. Unconfusing. And Dawson's like, if we were confused about the transition from friends to lover, I can only imagine one thing entrenched with it. And Joey's like, what's the suggestion? And Dawson's like, that we put on our dancing shoes. And Joey smiles. And then Jen and Abby walks by. Abby Morgan. And Jake goes, hey guys, and Dawson says, hey, and Abby, kind of being the beat that she is, says, wipe the drool off, Dawson. And Joey looks at them and then says, I don't like them too, being so Jimmy. I mean, Abby isn't a good influence for Jen, and we all know that. Like, Abby is the worst influence with Jen. And Dawson starts laughing, and he goes, is this general concern I'm hearing for Jen Lindley? And Joey's like, well, I feel sorry for her. I mean, her grandfather just died. Maybe we should invite her to the dance. I mean, we could go as a group. Might be fun. And Dawson says, Joey Potter, I applaud you. You earn major humility points for this. And Joey smiles and shrugs. And Dawson says, but don't you want to think about that make her feel worse than she already does? And Joey says, I don't know. All I think is a list of family member, Dawson, and think about it. It may just make fun of her. It's up to you. Your call. And Dawson says, I'll see you later. And Joey's like, okay. And then they kiss. And Joey sees Jack entering the building, and they stare at each other, and then she just bolts away. Like, see ya, not my problem. Classic Joey Potter over here. So the next scene that we have is scene 2 of Pacey. And it cuts to Andy and Pacey outside, and Pacey's like, so since I'm in charge of the transport Saturday, would you like me to pick up your house or meet somewhere? And Joey and Andy goes, let's meet somewhere. And Pacey's like, cool. How's your mother doing anyway? I like how this is now a conversation starter, but let's get that. Pacey is now like, hey, how's your mom doing? And Andy says she's having a good week. And Pacey's like, listen, Andy, if there's anything I can do, you just ask me, right? And Andy says, so Witter, I hope you have dancing moves polished and ready, because I planned on making a dancing fool out of you. And Pacey says, sorry, McPhee, no can do, I don't dance. I've seen Pacey dance like a couple of times. Obviously with Christy, then with Andy, but we see Pacey dancing with Joey like 5 times. It's so cute. Like, I'm like, I don't dances all the time with Joey. Like, I feel like that could be an edit. I don't dance. Do. That's actually good at it. I might be an edit for TikTok. Anyway. And Andy's like, what do you mean you don't dance? And Pacey's like, I mean, I don't like it, and I'm not going to. I mean, it's bad enough that I'm going to on Saturday, but don't expect me to get out there and start busting a move, because it's not going to happen. And Andy's like, you don't dance? You are beyond immature. And Pacey says, you're overbearing. And Andy's like, boring. Pacey says, hypersensitive. Andy says, vulture. And then Pacey's like, pick you up a 7? And Andy's like, okay. And then Dawson walks up, and Dawson says, are you two having a splat? And Pacey says, no, just our usual passive aggressive bearing. And Dawson's like, okay. And Andy's like, no, actually, we're talking about the dance. And oh, hey, if you guys don't mind, I'd really like to invite my brother Jack to come along. You know, he's kind of a loner, and I think it'll be good for him. And Dawson says, actually, we could invite Jen Lindley. And Andy goes, Jack and Jen? A setup? Dawson says, I mean, I'm not sure if they're the perfect match, but they're both single. And Andy's like, I like it. And Pacey's like, no, you guys, this is a bad idea. And Dawson's like, you never know, it could work. And Andy's like, let's do it. And Pacey's like, no, don't, come on. Whenever you set two people up, they know they're not good to each other. It's a recipe for disaster. This could only been badly, I promise you, please. Who set up Pacey with someone? Jeez. And Andy's like, I'll set it up. And Dawson's like, great. And Andy's like, bye. And Pacey's just sitting there like, am I invisible to ever? The next scene that we have is actually a couple scenes that I wrote in here. And Dawson's parents gets divorced. So that sets the whole mood for Dawson right there. And scene 3 of Pacey, Andy's like, oh good. Here's Pacey, and she's talking to Jack while they were waiting for him. And Pacey pulls up in his cop car. And Jack's like, quite a car. And Andy's like, it's his dad's. They have a complex relationship. We don't know what Andy has heard from Pacey about his dad, but we know it's not good things. And then they cut to the school, and Joey's kind of wearing like this orange dress. And I think Andy's wearing like a silver blue. I never really wrote it down. Pacey's wearing like this gray suit, and that's all I know because I wasn't really paying attention to the rest. And Andy goes, the light was clearly red, Pacey, as they're walking to school. And Pacey goes, oh no, it was turning red. I agree with you. Red means stop, but if the light is turning red, it's like an invitation to hit the gas. That's for like yellow, not red, Pacey. And Andy's like, what? Dawson and Joey then say, hey, and then she goes, then she realizes Dawson and Joey's sitting there, and she goes, hey, and she says to Dawson, you know my brother Jack. And Dawson's like, yeah, we met unofficially. And he goes, and Joey? And Joey nods her head, like, obviously, I know him, and I kissed him. And Pacey says, so, and Dawson says, Jen, hey, and Jen walks up, and Jen says, Dawson, everybody, and Andy says, Jen, this is my brother Jack, and Jen goes, hi, Jack, Andy's brother, and Jack's like, it's okay, you can just call me Jack, and Andy's like, shall we? And Joey to Dawson said, let's go, and Dawson asked, ready, and Joey's like, yeah, like, I just told you, let's go. And little did they know that Jack and Jen were the perfect match, and they set up them like a ball, like, let's go. So many people I love Jack and Jen's relationship, and that's the first time they meet, so that was like unrelated topic, but I really love that scene, because I just love Jen and Jack, like, they're so cute. So the next scene that we have is Joey going on the floor of this is scene 4 of Joey, and they're cutting to the dance floor. And there's more dancing, and Joey and Dawson are dancing, and Dawson dips Joey, and they smile, and they laugh. And Jack and Andy are dancing, and Andy waves at Pacey, who is just sadly sitting there, and he's like, do not make me dance. And then it cuts to Joey and Dawson dancing, and then Joey jumps into Jack, and Joey's like, sorry, and Jack's like, my fault, and a slow song comes on. And Dawson's like, more my speed. Now that's a little bit awkward though, like, just a little bit, like, no thanks. The next scene that we have is scene 4 of Pacey, where it cuts to Andy and Pacey, where Andy goes, yeah, she's cute, and, like, she's talking about Jen, and Pacey says, she's cute, he's cute, they never met before, they're completely opposites, and it's gonna get ugly in about 20 minutes. And Andy's like, and Joey's like, and Pacey's like, And then we cut to Joey in scene 5, and it cuts back to Dawson and Joey dancing, and Dawson says, so my dad drove off, leaving my mom crying over the sink. God, I wouldn't even give now for them to get back to their coffee dates and sex addicts. And Joey's like, I'm sorry, Dawson. And Dawson says, you know, I'm ready to let them work it out, their adolescent traumas on their own. Steer clear, but there's a bright side. And Joey says, what's that? And Dawson says, the coffee table is now available. gross. And it cuts back to Jen and Jack dancing, and Dawson is watching them while he dances. And Dawson goes, well, I dare to say they might like each other. They do like each other, but just as best friends, Dawson. And Joey goes, Jack and Jen? Jack and Jen. And Dawson says, Andy and I played a matchmaker tonight. And Joey had the same reaction as Pacey. And we obviously know why Joey had this reaction, because of Jack. And Joey says, why would you do that, Dawson? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And Dawson's like, they need to meet new people, they're single. And Joey says, yeah, but Jack is nice and sweet guy, and Jen is there. It won't ever work. And Dawson's like, why are you getting so worked up about this? And Joey's like, I'm not worked up, I just have an opinion, that's all. And Dawson's like, I'll alert the media. And they kiss. Which, we know why Dawson gets very obnoxious about this, but it's still like, okay. After Joey gets very worked up about Jen and Jack, it cuts to scene 5 of Pacey. And Pacey and Andy are there, and Andy goes, come on, Pacey, what do you say? Want to dance? And Pacey's like, I told you, Miffy, I don't dance. And Andy's like, I don't believe you. I think you're just holding on some power to control this relationship. And Pacey's like, what relationship? And Andy's like, haha, come on, just a slow dance. And Pacey's like, I just told you, Miffy, I don't dance. This includes all dances of speed, all types, and all cultures, including, but not limited to fast dance, slow dance, whatever Patrick Sloan's was doing in Dirty Dancing. Which, I love how Pacey says this, and he literally goes to like a class of dancing with Joey. And he's like, you know, Pacey, you are stubborn sometimes. Fine, if you don't want to dance with me, I'll just find someone else who will. And Pacey's like, don't hurt the poor guy, would you? And Pacey watches Christy Livingstone dance with her boyfriend. And can I just say, I've done this before. Like, one guy did not want to dance with me, so I got another guy to dance with me. And it was perfect because, you know what? The boy got jealous, and I was like, go me. And I was just like this teenager. I'm like, you know what? If you don't want to dance with me, I'll dance with someone else. And surprise, surprise, girlfriends, it actually works. So there's hope for that segment right there. And if you ever want to get a guy's attention, just do that. So then we have scene 6 of Joey, and it cuts to the hallway, and Joey is leaning against the wall, and Jack comes out. And Joey's like, did I mention that you weren't supposed to follow me? And Jack's like, I just wanted to apologize. And Joey's like, okay, you apologize, noted. And Jack's like, what made you so angry about this? Like, we already know that Jack thinks she's always angry because he has said it before. And can I just say, what do you think she's so angry for? And Joey's like, why am I so angry? Because you didn't have respect for me or my relationship. What you did was so rude and inappropriate. And Jack's like, no, I think there's something else going on. And Joey's like, what? And Jack says, it's all this anger you're expressing. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. And Joey's like, what are you talking about? And Jack's like, I don't think you're angry at me for kissing you. I think that you're angry at yourself for kissing me back. Oh, burn! Like, go Jack, go little rock star. Apparently, they actually say go little pop star, which is weird to me, but whatever. And Jax turns to walk away, but Dawson is standing there with an angry expression, and Joey noticed this and her face follows, and she runs to the bathroom. She's like, we don't talk about a kiss. It was my wedding. Does anyone else have like that Disney movie song stuck in their head all the time? Because same. And then what does Dawson do to like give the solution to his problems? He punches Jack. Like, yep, that's what he does. He just punches him. Boom. Like, good solution. Good solution, my friend. So then the next scene that we have is scene 6 of Pacey. And it cuts to Pacey walking out of the men's restroom and sees Christy standing in the hallway. Pacey's like, hey Christy, what are you doing out here all by yourself? He's like, pretty girl with highlights, let's go. And Christy's like, thinking, and Pacey's like, about what? And she's like, about your heartstring. Just kidding. And she says, the usual. Why my boyfriend will flirt with anyone in a short skirt, and why himself or his self-esteem wouldn't stop him. And Pacey's like, well, if you need a boost, you came to the right place. I know about 800 guys who would love to line up to replace Brett if he exits the picture. And just in this school, if you add up the neighborhood school districts, we could probably triple that number. And Christy's like, right. And Pacey's like, you're joking. Look, I may not hang out with the beautiful people of Cape Side, but to think that I have a number of posts of common men, and believe me, that post quickens constantly when you walk up. And Christy's like, you're embarrassing me, Pacey. Okay, Pacey, why don't you see this response and just go with it? And Pacey's like, I'm sorry, I just thought you should know. Well, have a good night, Christy. And Christy's like, Pacey? And Pacey's like, oh, she remembers my name. And he's like, yeah. And Christy says, are you one of them? And Pacey says, excuse me? Obviously, he's not one of them. He says, excuse me. And Christy goes, I was just wondering if you were one of those quick pulses. And Pacey says, yeah, of course I am. I think you're incredible, Christy. You already know that. And Christy says, as lame as school dances can be, there's always that one memory that seems to make it all worth it. So what do you say, Pacey? Will you dance with me? And this is where he dances with Christy, but not Andy. Obviously, he was being stupid there. And they start dancing, and Andy sees Pacey and Christy dancing, and Pacey sees her. So obviously, it's like, you have danced with her, but not with me. Really? The next scene that we have is the fight with Joey and Dawson. So I have a lot to say on this. So Dawson is exiting the school, which this has happened in season 3 too. So we're gonna see this later in the show, and several times after that actually. And Dawson's exiting the school, and Joey sits on the steps and follows him. And Joey says, Dawson, where are you going? And Dawson's like, home, which I thought he didn't even want to go home, but okay. And Joey's like, no, look, I want to talk about this. And Dawson's like, first, you run away, and now you want to talk? And Joey's like, no, about the kiss. And Dawson's like, I know all about the kiss. And obviously you don't, Dawson, because you didn't hear her side of the story. And Joey's like, no, you don't. And Dawson says, Joey, you kissed someone else. What is there to know? And Joey's like, it wasn't like that. He kissed me. I just didn't. And Dawson says, stop him. And Joey says, look, Dawson, I'm sorry, okay? It was a mistake. It was a poor error in judgment. That's all. And to blow this into some earth-shattering scene of cinnamon protest. And Dawson's like, now wait a minute. You're not going to do that to me. And Joey's like, do what? And Dawson's like, you used me to think that to dive into the past that you screwed up. And I will say that my anchor is a lot like Dawson, so I can't judge him on this. And Joey says, I said I was sorry. What else do you want me to say? Dawson's like, there's nothing you can say. There's no justifiable reason for a girl who spent the last 15 years of her life pretending that was the only thing she may end up kissing some other guy and lie about it. Technically she didn't lie to you about it, she just didn't tell you about it, Dawson. There's a big difference. And secondly, she kissed other guys. You only liked her in the last, 3 months? All of this probably lasted them, their whole relationship, 6 episodes. And suddenly he's like, you spent the last 15 years. Obviously, you didn't know each other for the past 15 years. You know each other for probably 10. So don't go justifying about that. And Joey's like, I didn't lie to you, Dawson. That kissing was not my doing. And Dawson's like, not your doing? And Joey's like, yeah. And Dawson's like, what? Did you physically leave your body the moment your lips touch his? And Joey's like, don't do this. Don't punish me just to make yourself feel better. And Dawson's like, so I'm the bad guy. Which actually Joey was right. He was punishing her because he didn't like the answer that she was giving him. And Joey continues by saying, yeah, I guess you are. And Dawson's like, you cheat on me and I'm the bad guy. cheating doesn't make you the bad guy, Dawson. Don't. And she didn't tell you because she didn't want this reaction. And Joey says, yes, don't you get it? This wasn't some stupid kiss, Dawson. And Dawson says, it's about us. No, it's about me. For once, it's about me, Dawson. And what I've been trying to tell you. And Dawson knows there's a whole, like, everyone listening, and he walks off. Which, we know that she was trying to get him to notice her, and this was a red flag, because the whole relationship was her trying to, like, get him to notice her, and he didn't. Like, he just plainly did not notice her throughout the whole season that they were together. And it was just, like, with the art thing, too, it was some little hobby, and now she's just screaming at him, like, I didn't care about the kiss. I didn't want to tell you about this because it was a me problem, not a us problem, not a you problem. Like, it was a me problem. Like, I got the one that was kissed. I had to figure out what I wanted. And obviously, like, it wasn't like some shows where they just, like, don't tell them about it. But it was, like, one of those moments that you see, like, a teenager fighting for her life, just saying, like, hey, it was a me problem. Like, don't focus on him. Don't focus on anything else. Like, focus on that I need to do to get myself better. And it just, there's a lot of things that just go on with this scene that I'm just like, she's screaming for help. Like, she just wants you to notice that this was a her thing. This was not a you thing. Not a us thing. It was a her thing, and she just needed to get her act together. In order to get her act together, she just needed to stop altogether and just figure it out for herself. It's like with the pregnancy scare for Pacey and Joey. Like, she didn't tell Pacey about it because she didn't know how to. Like, she didn't know how he would react, and there was a lot of things that just go on that Joey does that a lot to people. Well, she doesn't tell him because she wants to. She didn't tell him because he didn't need to know. She needed to solve it out in her head. She needed to work it out in her head. And that was the reason why she tells the guys later why they have to figure it out on their own, because it was a her problem. The scene that we have is scene 7 of Pacey. And Andy's on the dock and Pacey walks up. And Andy says, I thought you didn't dance, Pacey. And Pacey says, you know, I've been looking for you. I've been looking for you everywhere. And Andy says, you said you didn't dance, Pacey. Like, she was hung up about this. Like, he said he didn't dance, and now he's dancing with Christy Livingstone. The girl that he said automatically was a metaphor to him, and now he's dancing with her. And Pacey says, what? Did you see me out there? You could hardly call that dancing. And Andy says, you're right, I call it foreplay. But then again, you don't owe me any explanations, because we're not together, are we? We're sparring partners, right? We don't mean anything to each other than that. And Pacey says, that's not true. You know that's not true, Andy. I mean, I had a wonderful time with you tonight. I was. It's just, when I ran into Christy, I just got swept up in the moment. Which is a very good point, but Pacey, there was a lot of things going on in this scene, because Pacey was obviously just, like, working through it. Like, he got caught up in the moment where it's just, like, it was him, but also Andy and Pacey weren't really defined, and Andy knew that, so she knew in her head, like, why should I be jealous about this if there was no reason to be jealous because we're not together, but obviously they wanted to be together. And so how Andy replies to this, well, it's too bad I'm not the girl who you can be swept away. Which, in her mind, like, if I heard a guy say that, I would just be like, take me home. Take me home right now, because obviously you don't see what I'm trying to say here. And Pacey says, come on, Andy. Come on. You know that's not what I meant. It's just Christy, she's like a fantasy. Don't tell me you ever want to act out the fantasy, even if it's just lived for a moment. And he's like, I was trying to live out my fantasy all night. And Pacey's like, why do you like me? And Andy's like, what? And Pacey's like, why do you like me? I'm a screw-up, Andy. I'm thoughtless, I'm insecure, and for the life of me, I can't understand why a woman like you would bother to care about me. And Andy's like, God, I don't know, Pacey, because you're funny and you're kind and you don't judge people. You make them feel good about themselves. I mean, you don't run screaming from my house the other day when you met my crazy old mother. And you're smart. I mean, I don't know where you got this loser concept because you're so smart. You fare better with me than anyone. And you're sharp and witty and brilliant, and this is more than you deserve. I actually had an old boyfriend that was like this, and he was very, very insecure. And I realized it was his family life, but I'm like, dude, do you not see, like, how amazing you are? And he's like, no. And I'm like, this is all the reasons why. And he's like, thanks, but that means a lot. But I'm not any of those things. Like, you have this fantasy in my head. And Pacey's like, I know, Andy, I know. I'm really sorry, truly sorry. I'm sorrier than I've been in a long time. The moment that I spent with Christy, the moment that I'm going to make up for a whole night, I was with the wrong person. I just want to spend that moment with you. And it's like, well, we're certainly having one, aren't we? And Pacey's like, would you dance with me, Miss Miffy? And it's like, I would love to. And they start dancing. And the next season that we have, they start not really dancing. Andy takes Pacey to the anti-prom, and Andy sees Pacey dancing with Joey. So this isn't going to be the only time that she ever sees him dancing with someone else. But that was a whole complete different circumstances, and obviously we'll talk about the next season. And Pacey goes, sharp, witty, and brilliant, huh? Anything else you care to add? And he's like, if you think I find this charming, Pacey, you're massively deluded. And Pacey's like, of course not. How could you? I'm a witless bore. And Andy gives orderless clock. And Pacey says, Major Cat, kiss me. And Andy said, I thought you never asked. And they kiss, which I think this is such a typical relationship. But we all know that this fantasy that they're living probably won't last for that long. But I do like how Andy's like, well, help me live out my fantasy, because my fantasy is dancing with you, and it makes that happen. And I love how he's like, I don't dance, but he dances like 15 times with Joey. So if you like this episode, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, where I will be posting every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to follow my Instagram, Twitter, and Potter, and my TikTok, Pacey and Joey. And I'll catch you next time. Bye, guys!